Hello and welcome back to Frank's Model Aviation Workshop. Before we get started today, I want to address sanding bars and the importance of replacing the sandpaper on it periodically, because sometimes glue gets stuck in there, and if you go to sand on your nice sheeting, it'll put a really nice groove in your sheeting, and that's always nice. But this episode, we're going to start the fuselage build, and I'm really excited to get this started. You can tell by the look on my face. So if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new installments of the build, and share my videos. I'd appreciate that, and thank you for watching. Okay, in order to replace the sandpaper on your sanding bars, I like to use, first of all, to put the sandpaper on, repositionable adhesive. This is a Scotch spray mount. I've been using this for years. It works perfectly. You spray a light coat on the paper, not on the sanding bar, and then you just set your sanding bar on it, use your razor blade and cut around the very edge of the sanding bar, and you got a perfectly made strip of sandpaper on your sandbar. T-bar, easy touch, whatever you want to use, as long as it's flat. So the first thing you're going to need to replace this, once it gets all, it gets plugged up with, glue and filler, whatever you're going to use, but it wears out. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, you're going to need your sanding bar with the dirty sandpaper on it. Heating iron set at high heat. I've been having it warm up, so it's pretty hot. Whatever sandpaper you want to use, I like to use this 3M longer lasting stuff. This is 220. Straight edge razor blade, and of course your adhesive for the new sheet. So I'll get you in here close to show you my procedure for removing this paper. So I'll show you on this small one, and then the same procedure for the larger one. But what you want to do is you want to take your super hot iron and just set it on there. Wait until you can feel the heat through the sanding bar, and metal will transfer heat fairly quickly. And you want to get it started first before you go and do the whole thing. I just like to get it started. There, it's pretty hot right now. Now you'll take your razor blade and stick it under there. And just start peeling. Be careful you don't burn the crap out of yourself. And you don't want to rip it off. You want to go slowly so that you have a nice clean surface like that. So you just keep heating it up. And you may want to wear gloves or whatever to protect your hand from the heat. My hands are like leather, so it doesn't really matter for me. As you can see, some of the paper is starting to peel away. If it does, just take your razor blade and stick underneath there. Peel it away slowly. I just peel real slow because it'll be less work for you. If you peel slow, it may take a little longer, but it's better than having to break out the WD-40 to get the adhesive off the sanding bar. So I'm going to start this corner now. Not sure if you can see it. It's hard to get that first. Once you get it started, it's not too bad, but it's hard to get that first little section going. Just be patient, fellas. You gotta be patient. This sandpaper's been on here for a long time. That's why it's not coming off as easy. But it'll come off eventually. I must have used that 3M77 on this. I try to avoid that because that stuff is like, it like cements it on there. Set that on there. It's getting, you know, you can feel it pretty quick, the heat. And just give it a little pull, slowly. I may end up having to do the WD-40 trick on this one, because it's not coming off easy. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. You want to be careful with these razor blades. You could slip and cut yourself. You don't want to do that. There we go. It's coming. Once you get it started, it should peel fairly easily. That's not bad. It's got a little bit of adhesive there, you see. But you could have more later, so we'll just see what happens here. You see how slowly I'm pulling that? Using this finger and pinching it, using one finger to kind of just guide your pull. And you want to kind of pull like at a 90, but really slow. You start to see paper rip away on either edge, stop, give it a little heat. You might need to use your razor blade to get the edges. But we'll heat this up some more. Just keep pulling. Normally this, I don't know if oh, I know what this is. This is that pre-sticky stuff, I believe. And I used the adhesive with it, which, you know, kind of was a bad idea. I think I was out of regular sandpaper and I had some of that pre-sticky stuff. That's what you want to call it. Pre-glued. It comes in a roll. Just gotta work it just a little bit at a time. It does get hot. So that's why you might want to wear gloves. You could literally lay that back down and glue it back down with the heat. But I'm trying to take this off. See how slowly I'm going? And then when you get to this edge, the very edge, go even slower because it'll come off really fast and leave stuff behind. There. All I have is a few little specks, and I'll get the WD-40. I like to use WD-40, and then I'll come across it with alcohol to clean any like oil residue off. So I'll get the WD-40 and show you how I do all that. Okay, WD-40 is not your friend when it comes to getting it on your wood or your plans or your table. So you know, use it away from what you want to keep clean. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera, spray some onto a paper towel, then I'll come back. Okay, from this point on, I'm going to be very careful not to get any grease prints, hand prints on anything. So I'm going to just take this soaked WD-40 and just rub it onto that adhesive that's on the sanding bar, and this WD-40 will dissolve that adhesive. As you can see, it's disappearing. Clean. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this down off camera, and I'm going to go wash my hands and get another paper towel with alcohol on it. So bear with me here in a minute. So anyway, hands clean, got my alcohol. Alcohol you can use around your plans or whatever, it'll dry. And we'll take that alcohol and clean that surface. I even clean the top surface as well, just to make sure you got all the oils off of it. And that's one clean sandbar. Next thing you're going to do, what I like to do, because I'm going to be doing two, I'm going to be doing my 11-inch, and I think that's a 5.5. So you take one sheet of your 220, and it should fit that perfect. Yeah, see, that fits that just perfect. So I'm going to go downstairs again, and I'm going to spray this adhesive. Just follow the directions on the can. You spray what you want to remove. So say you want to remove the sandpaper, so you spray the back of the sandpaper, and then when I bring it upstairs, it'll be tacked, because it's like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. But then we'll just take and set that on just like that. Save this sandpaper that's going to be covered in adhesive, because you got other sandbars that you need to use. So we'll do that. I'll go downstairs, spray this, come upstairs, and we'll place it. I think you got a certain amount of time that you have before the tackiness goes away and you got to respray. So I think what I'll do off camera, I'll go ahead and take this one off clean, and I got a 22-incher that I'm going to try to use this whole sheet. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I still haven't gone downstairs yet because I wanted to get this one done first. And while I was doing this one, I checked my 22-inch, and it's got good sandpaper, so I'm not even going to remove that. I'm just going to basically cut this one in half and only spray half a sheet, so I don't have adhesive on half a sheet laying around. So that's what we'll do. And I'll also, before I glue these on, I'll give them another wipe of alcohol just to make sure they're clean. So that'll give me a guide where to cut. Okay, now I'll go down and spray this, and I'll be back. Okay, there's your sprayed sandpaper. Should be pretty tacked up by now. So I'm going to run over my sandbars with some alcohol one more time. Make sure they're nice and oil free. You want to get all the edges. Make sure they're clean. Then once they're dry, which they are, you'll line them up. Make sure you get them as perfectly straight as you can. Just set them on there. And I'll do this one over here. And give them a good press for a little bit. Glue it on there. Now I'm going to zoom in. I want to show you what I do as far as trimming. Now what I like to do, I know everybody has their own thing, but I like to run my X-Acto along the edge of that sanding bar. And that'll get that edge to be perfectly clean. Same with all the edges. Just run your X-Acto knife down all the edges. I know you probably can't see this one. And then this end. Give one last press, and voila! Nice, fresh sandpaper on there. If you want, you can run that, because that end or that edge is a little round. You can do this with it, and it'll blend it up a little bit, but it's unnecessary. Anyway, that's a fresh piece, 220 on my 11.5-inch bar, or 11-inch. And I'll trim this one, and I'll have a fresh piece on my 5.5. Like I said, everybody's got their thing, their own way of doing things. This is just mine. I hate to get rid of this, so I'm going to fold this in on itself. Like that. There you got a nice little piece of sanding paper you can use later. And there it is. You got 2 fresh sanding bars with 220 on it, or whatever grain you wanted to use. Okay, so I was going to go with the Glow Power. I was going to power it with this Enya R120 4-cycle with the geared fuel pump. But because of the price of nitro these days, it's ridiculous. So I decided to go with a DLE 20 rear exhaust. So that's what I'm going to go. I'm going to convert to gas. So I'm going to have to get used to that. But it'll be cheaper in the long run, and I might be able to fly more. So we'll see. I wanted to show you. That's what I'm going to be powering it with. I got the DLE 20RA. I think you can see this. I got a Zor 15.7 3-bladed prop. And I ordered a True Turn 3-blade spinner, but they don't have a P-40 spinner. I had to order the ultimate spinner. I had them cut the spinner to the Zor 15.7. So it's going to look a little weird because, you know, the P-40 spinner is a little bit shorter than the ultimate. So, however, for display purposes, I do have the top Flite P-40 spinner that I'll be using with my display prop when I'm not flying. Anyway, I wanted to show that. On to the build. Okay, first things first on the fuselage build, I had to get the two fuselage sides. I'll bring you in and show you. But they have to be straight. And as everybody knows that's built before, these balsa wood sides, or any balsa wood that's been cut from the sheet, will bend, warp. So I got to figure out what I want to do here. I got a slight gap when I put the two tops together. There's a slight gap. I'll show you. It probably is not going to take much to fix, but I'll bring you in close and show you. Okay, as you can see, these ends are touching. And there's a slight gap, maybe a 32nd, maybe a 64th in the middle, and the tail end is together. So I'm going to put my straight edge up against there and see which side is warped, and maybe all it'll take is a little bit of sanding. That would be nice. So I'll get you set up, show you. Okay, so I got both sides up here with my straight edge, and when I put this up against the straight edge, it's just, I mean, just maybe a little bit of sanding on this end and a little bit of sanding on the tail end might bring that in a little bit, because they're both about equally warped. I think this one's just a hair more. So I'm gonna do my trick with my permagrit. I'll reposition you, and I'm going to move this table off and put this permagrit on my table, and we'll sand just a little bit, not a lot, and because I don't want to take away from the thrust angle or whatever that might mess up. So I'll reposition you, and I don't know how much detail I'm going to be able to show you, because it's, you know, I don't have a whole lot of room in here to set up cameras. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, I know I got you in here real close. I wanted to show you this slot here. I do not want to lose any of that space. So I'm going to take my black Sharpie, and I'm just going to kind of put a mark on it. Just touch that with the Sharpie so I don't lose that, because I'm not going to take any of that off. I'm just going to work on this front section. Same with the other one. That's what I wanted to do on the other one. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, that way I know where my edge is. So I'm going to sand that edge first. So I'm going to give this a light sanding, just this front section here. Same with the other section. I'll remark that because I had to flip it over. I'm just sanding this forward section to that little slot. And I brought it in close to the table so it's not like riding up and down the sandpaper, and I'm holding it as close to the edge as I can. Okay, I put it up against the straight edge and I'm still seeing just a slight gap. So now I'm going to come down here on the tail end and I'm going to work on it. I'll probably go from here to here and I'll even mark it. I might even go where that angle is. See where this angle is? I'll just go straight up here and just put a little mark so I know not to go any further, because you know the gap's right here, so you don't need to sand any of this. So let's sand that and see what it looks like. Okay, so it's going to need just a little bit more, not a whole lot at all. So off camera, I'm not going to pay too much attention to this. I'm going to be down here on this end. Get this sanded a little bit further to where it sets nice on this ruler, because I know if it sets nice on the ruler, when I have it setting up here like this on the bench, I know that I'm not going to induce any kind of warp or twist in the fuselage. So I'll get back with you when I'm satisfied with what that looks like. Okay, I got them both trimmed and I am down to, I don't even know if you can see the gap, maybe right here, but it's hard to even squeeze that together, so I'm not even gonna mess with it. But I think that's going to do it for making that top straight. And another way you can tell it's straight is, let me see if I can get you in here close or further away. If you take them up on the top like this, and you go in the middle there, you can see how that still touches. And this one here, if you don't have anything touching there, it's definitely not straight. So I think I'm going to be good with that. I think I'm happy with it. Enough to where when I get it glued up, it's not going to be warping. So I'll get you set up and we'll move on to the next step. Preparation is key when it comes to making a straight airplane. You want to make sure everything's straight before you glue it together, because once it's glued together, you're done. That's all you're going to get. So next I'm going to have to fit these up. So I'm going to have to fiddle around with these edges. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'll take my sanding bar and I think you can see it. I'll move down here. I'm going to take my sanding bar to this edge, just lightly though, just to square it up. That's that one. I'll do this one. Just lightly. And you'll be able to tell when this all gets glued together that these edges have been sanded, because that seam should be practically invisible I'll do the same with this, just to square it. Now, I'm not gonna go, beyond that, of course, but I'm just gonna lightly sand it. See it? I even hit it right there. Just to square it off more than anything. I mean, you're not gonna be able to square it off a whole lot because of the way it die cut. But if you get it close, that's good enough. And then you test it. That looks pretty good. Now that gap there, I'll show you how that will be filled. I can probably just hit this tab with my sandpaper. Yeah, that's even closing it off a little bit. So the less gaps you have to fill, the better. So obviously my next step is going to be gluing these pieces on. But you want to make sure your prep work is on point. You got to choose a good side and a bad side. So this thing is really, the die cutting is really bad in this one. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this. Like I said, I'll show you a way to fill gaps later on in the fuselage build. It involves saving your sanding dust. I think Mike Bayona of Bayona's RC World talked about it in his latest video. Now that gap, it's going to be a little bit bigger. But once you get these things where you like them, you're going to have to match them up because these two sides have to be exactly the same. Basically all I'm doing is making them to where they'll go together nicely without much, play. Matter of fact, before I even glue them up, I'm going to tape those together and put them together and see what they look like. Tell you what, man, the kit quality of these top Flite kits is unbelievable. I wish they would have not ever stopped making kits, especially for us kit builders. We love building these things. Those look pretty good. This here on the end, I'll address that at a later time. But I'm going to go ahead and set up. I think I'm going to use this side as my finished side because I like the way that looks. That's what I'm going to do. So you know the drill as far as wax paper down, thin CA, tape on the finger, and I'm going to just seal that up. And you squeeze it together and push down while you push that CA in there. So I'll do that in fast speed, so that way you can see it being done, and I can get something done. I'm going to do it on the table though. Okay, there's my two, as perfect as I can get them, side sheets. This is the outside. I try to get that seam as invisible as possible. It's different colors, of course, but those gaps in here are no longer. Those gaps are no longer. What you do is you wick some thin CA in those gaps and you quickly wipe it away, and then quickly get at it with some 220 real lightly. Just sand it, and the balsa dust will get inside that seam and fill it flush. I can't even feel that, it's so smooth. But that's how you do those gaps. As long as they're tiny gaps like that. If you get something huge, you might want to use balsa filler. But okay, that's the outside, so I'm going to have to flip these over so I don't glue my doublers on the outside. That would be kind of crappy. All right, I'll set you up and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, the plans say to match it up with the plans, and I got it on the top line. There's the tab, and it is on the line the whole way down. I just wanted you guys to see that. The bottom side is not as critical because it's going to get sanded and there's going to be a block put on, long block. And my wing saddle is in there perfectly. So, all right, on to, I think we're going to be gluing the doublers on. I folded my plan so that if I need to reference the side view, I'll show you. See, I have that fold there like that. So if I have to reference the side view, there I go. I got the whole side view up on the table. If I don't need the side view, I'll just drop it off the back of the table like that. All right, let's get them doublers on. Okay, here's another little tip. These die cut sheets, whether it's balsa or plywood, if you notice that the back side, it doesn't look like it's die cut all the way through, you can take your sandbar and just kind of give it a sand like this, and it'll help you see the line, and it'll come out easier. So I just give it a quick little. They should come out easy. They look like they're going to, but I was just showing you a tip. Whether you're building with balsa or plywood. I can see they're falling out already. So I'm just gonna lightly. And if you see any that are sticking, don't go any further. Take your knife. Get rid of this dang tape. I don't need that no more. Take your knife. Look for your line. And just run the knife down. Because you don't want to break out that plywood. I'm going to put a sharp blade in. I don't like cutting with a dull blade. So you can see it, you can barely see it, just run your knife down it. These are the fuselage doublers. And you always want to check both sides because you don't want to bust that out. So far, the wood on this kit is outstanding. I don't know how Mike's is. It should be brand new kit. I'm basically just going outside of that die cut so that it doesn't break out. There's one, it's got This is the wing bolt plate, goes in here, so I'm gonna take that out too. And I'll give these a light sanding. So that's the right side. You gotta keep in mind you got a right and a left side, so because it's gonna set your right thrust. You know what, I think this. Oh, I'll wait till I get the other one done. You never want to glue anything together until you're sure what goes where. I've done that before. I would have glued a doubler on and it was the wrong side, and I ended up having to tear the whole doubler off. Luckily it was plywood against plywood and the glue wasn't totally dry, but I did leave a lot of plywood behind, so I had to sand it flat. And I used this pattern, not on this plane, but I think it was the Extra 300. I used this pattern to trace onto another sheet of 1/8 ply, and I jigsawed out a new piece, fixed it. There's always a way to fix your mistakes. Even if you gotta cut new pieces. This die cutting is really good on this kit. There you go. And I always save my scraps. Okay, first, before I do anything, I'm gonna see what we got here. I'm gonna match them up. Oh, gotta take that out. So there's that one. Okay, yeah. So this is the right side, or the left side. This is the right side. I don't know if you can see it on camera. I'll bring it up. So, man, this is so confusing. Everything's built upside down on this thing. Let me think real quick. This is the right bottom view. So that would be the right side. Yeah. This be the left. One way you can do is you can put it together, because you're trying to find the your right thrust. So yeah, that's right. It's always good to do a lot of pre-fitting before you glue. Well, see, I got my tail together and the front together, and you can see this is the right side because it's set in your right hand thrust. I think it's 2 degrees or something like that. Yeah. And this is your left side. So that's how these doublers have to be glued onto your sides, to the fuselage side. So I'll set you up and I'll get to gluing. Yeah. I want to say something before I go any further. I took my T-bar and sanded this straight and flat on both pieces. This side I'm not too worried about. I'm just going to run over real lightly with that piece of sandpaper I saved earlier. All the other edge I'm just going to barely give it a little bit of, just a little tiny sand. I'm not even putting any pressure on it. Just a little bit. Same with the back. I mean, it's not too crucial back here, I don't think yet. And I'm just cutting that sharp edge off. And that's good for that. So that's that one. Do the same thing for this one. Barely even putting any pressure. Just to kind of, neaten up the look of the build. Because, your name is on this thing when it's done. you go to the flying field, I mean, they don't see this. They don't see the inside of it, but you know it's there. And you know, I'm very picky with my builds, and if they're not right, I redo them. Okay, I'll get set up. What I do, I line up that wing saddle perfectly, and I'm going to take my marker or my pen or whatever you want to use. I'll try the pen, see if it works. And I mark just basically the outline of this doubler. This is going to help me line it up when I put it back on here. That's not work. I don't like those pens. Those gel pens don't work very good on these. There we go. So just hold the part down. I think that's it. Okay. So that way, because you know, look how much plywood is going to be left exposed. You don't want to put glue on this. I'm not sure you can see this, but you don't want to put glue on this side. I always apply my glue where it's going to be on the fuselage itself. I think I'm going to use thick CA because it won't dry as quick. I think this is still good. I'll test it. Oh, it's not even open. It's got to be good. Wait, I think I got one open up there. Maybe this one's open. I've got that on my fingers. I'm testing it. I mean, it's got some sticky properties. Let's see what this one is. That's not opening. I'm not gonna look. I'll use it. So, one thing I'm gonna do is get my weights. These weights are gonna help hold that down. Shh. So, 6 of them. You can use anything as long as it's flat. Okay, there's my weights. No, it's not. I need one more. There's my weights. I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm always scared when I join 2 pieces of wood together, because if you lightly set it and you quickly put your weights on there like that, it's kind of like hydroplaning in a car. There's still like liquid in between there that you can literally slide that piece and it'll be glued instantly in the wrong spot. So let's start with this one. I'm going to work slowly, and maybe I better put some, I want to mark these slots because I don't want to put glue in there. Same with that landing gear part. I'll mark it too. You want to try to avoid getting glue in here because it'll be hard to get your landing gear block in there. Okay, I'm gonna get some paper or wax paper. I'll just use this for both of them again. And before I do this, I'm going to clean off this table because I don't want to press weight down on a brand new looking fuselage side. I mean, there might not be anything but dust on there, but still. There's nothing that bothers me more than dings in balsa wood. But I showed you how to get them out. Okay. Now I'm going to be paying attention to that wing saddle and this little section up here. Right here on the, I think it's where the chin is. If I get that lined up, should be perfect. So I'm going to shake that up a little bit. All right, wish me luck. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but I'm putting enough on there to where it's gonna make a good joint. Okay. Now is where you want to be really careful. I'm going to start down here by lining that up. That's what I like about thick CA, it gives you a little bit of time. I want that wing saddle to be as perfect as I can get it. It looks like that's going to do. And you want to try to get all the glue out of these edges because the former is going to go there. Especially on the top here too. Just kind of taking some spare wood and going across it. I like that. Now we'll do this one. Same deal, I'm just going to outline where it goes. I think I sanded that one already. Yeah. I'm going to outline where it goes. and just apply glue where the doubler goes. I'm glad to hear that some of you guys like these longer videos. I like to watch them like that too because I feel like I get more out of it. Yeah, you can see what's going on better. And literally, the way I'm building this thing, you can literally build a P-40 without a manual because I'm going with the manual. Just making sure it's the wing saddle area is where it needs to be. Still haven't ordered my retracts. I know I'm procrastinating. Yeah, that's worked perfect. Yep. And we're on. Sorry about that if it hurt your ears. I know it hurt mine. Trying to get this on. Okay. Here we go. So obviously this glue is still good. Just probably take a little bit longer to set up a little. If you put ample amount of glue down, you have more time to position the part. Alright, start with here. And just watch that wing saddle. See how that's moving around? just keep playing with it until it starts to set up. Alright, I'm gonna let that set a little bit, let it dry. Going over my edge. Make sure I got a clean edge to glue whatever's gonna be glued there. Let that set for a little bit, cure for a little bit. What do we got next? Okay. After this sets, I get to set the forward crutch over the location on the plans, and this is where the fuselage comes together. I'm gonna cut off for now, and I'll get back with you when I get back to the doing the fuselage. Okay, it's day 2 on the fuselage build. I got a little bit late last night, had something to do early this morning. So, as you can see, I'll aim the camera here, but I got both my sides done with the doublers. Next step is to get the crutch built, and we'll get started on that. Okay, I got a question for you guys. Do you guys like the close-in view like this, or would you rather be further away and watching me build, or whatever you guys want to see? Leave it in the comments and I'll adjust accordingly. But I think by being in here close, getting you at different angles, you can see more of what I'm doing here. But the first step we need to do, we need to pin this crutch down. And I got this tool to use because, man, I know most of you builders out there know what it's like to try to push a pin through plywood. And it's not fun. So I'm gonna pin this down. Let's see. Shows a pin here. I got it lined up with the front and the back. And I'm using my weights too, because I want to keep this crutch flat while it glues. The other one is right here. They would have 2 pins in this thing? I'm always referring to the plan. I only got more than 2 pins. Boy, I should have been using this a long time ago. Can't even feel it. Must be going through a knot. Okay. I'm just gonna set those on there. Okay, I got that pin. I'm double checking, make sure that it's even on both sides. It's not gonna match perfectly on this plan, the way these die cuts are. I pre-checked that, but it's even on both sides here, even on both sides up here, and the front is lined up right where it should be. Yeah. I'm gonna go with that. All right, next step. I need to get all the formers cut out. So I'll get all the formers cut out and lightly sanded, and then I'll be back with you. So I got all my formers cut out that they say needs cut out, and I'm supposed to drill a 3/16 inch hole in all these where the little marks are. But before I do that, I like to go through and sand where they came out of the bulk over the plywood sheet, just lightly, just to smooth out the surface and get it so you get a better glue joint. Just go all around the whole part, just enough to clean it up a little bit. I know it don't have to be perfect, but I like my parts to look like the parts you see in the instructions. They look good. I even do these insides, which you don't really have to, but it looks a lot nicer. And what I'm doing here is on the back side where the die cutting doesn't come through good, I'm just taking off all the frayed stuff. So I've been doing that I've done an 8, 7, 6, and I'll do these 3 off camera, and then we'll bring you back and we'll go do some drilling. Okay, so this little segment might be a little loud on camera, so I'll adjust the volume on it. But basically what I'm going to do is right here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a dimple there that they give you to drill your 3/16 hole. So I'm going to just go through and drill all these real quick, and then we'll be back to work. that. Always use a back plate when you're drilling through wood. That way your pieces, I don't know if that's focusing or not. That way your pieces don't blow out on the back side. Okay, what I'm doing now, I'm trying to figure out a way to keep these perpendicular while they get glued. So like these weights are going to hold the plywood down, so I don't need really pins on this end. I got pins on this end, so basically what I'm doing, I'm just getting these things situated so I can glue this stuff together. Okay, I got, oh, and these formers go on with the number facing forward. That's what it says in the instructions. So it, and also this is the bottom, it's upside down, so the number has to be upside down, of course. So I'll continue putting this crutch together. Alright, so need F4 and the servo tray. And all these little scrap pieces, they might come in handy, so I keep them. Now take and sand all that. Just sand the edges just lightly. And I'll be using medium to thick CA to glue all this stuff together, because you know there is gaps, and I guarantee you that my crutch is going to be glued to that wax paper. I know I'm going a little overboard with the sanding, especially these servo bays, but you know, like I said, your name's going to be on it, and every little bit of workmanship is going to show. Not everybody is as anal retentive as I am. I'm just kind of placing this stuff together for now, and I think I'm not going to be able to put that in until after these formers are glued. So let's take these off for a second. This goes this way. That's how that'll look. Now if I use my 90s here, and if you see, if I leave these in here while I glue it, they ain't coming out. So those won't be in there when I glue this together. All right, so let's take that pin out too. However, I do have something I can use for weights right here. I could put that in there just like that. Let's see how that looks. There we go. I just want this to be perfectly straight. I wonder if this is not, I think that, yeah, it's bowed. So how's that gonna work out for me? I'm gonna try something. Okay. This is former 3. As you can see, let me see. Yeah. You can see if you line it up, it's a little bit twisted down here. You can see it's not lining up with the rest. If you look down it. So I'm gonna try something. May not work. We'll find out. I'm gonna try applying heat to this area here and just give them a little bit of twist just to try to straighten this out. I don't like gluing warped wood together because something else is gonna glue onto this and it won't line up. So I need to make sure everything's lined up. So, oops. I'm gonna try to do this on camera. Maybe you'd catch it, I don't know. Uncut. So this is the area I'm gonna concentrate on. So we'll just see what happens here. I'm just gonna let that set. Should soften, not only soften the wood, but it should soften the glue and the plywood. I don't know, we'll find out. I'm gonna heat the crap out of it and give it a little bend, and I'm gonna hold that bend until it cools. And I'll do this repeatedly until I can set this thing on the table and tap on all corners and none of them move. So basically I'm just holding this just till it cools. I mean, this may not work, but I gotta do something. The former F4 is straight. This one's crooked. think it might. A little bit more. I think it might work. And if it works, there you go. There's another tip. You just use heat to bend plywood. It might work with balsa wood too, but you know, plywood's glued together. You know, we'll see. But I want this to set on the table flat. If it's set on a table flat, it'll go in the airplane straight. What I'm doing is eyeball it straight down. I'm going to apply some heat to this side too. You know, this is an old kit, so I expect to have some kind of warpage, but so far it's been pretty decent. Here, this will tell you it's working because look, I just bent that out of shape. Now I'll just kind of iron it. Maybe you don't iron flat. Got a pretty even tappage there, so all you gotta do is this center section. I know this is probably boring. It's coming a little bit at a time. I just noticed when I put it in the crutch, it looked a little bit twisted, so that's what made me want to check it. There you go, look. It's getting there. That's right there. That's not a big deal, but it's flat now. Okay. Okay. That's fixed. Hopefully you guys got to see some of that. Okay, now that I got all my wood straight, I've got F3 in position. It needs to be glued in. So as you can see, it's perfectly perpendicular and it's even on both sides. You want to make sure you have it. Everything's got to be centered and perpendicular. Double check. And then we'll put a bead of thick CA, or maybe even just a drop. And who knows how long it's going to take to dry. Now, because there's just a little tab going into a big tab, I'm only concerned with gluing the small tab because something's going to go in that on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this in once I'm happy with how it's centered. Looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to let that go and dry for a little bit, and then I'll be back when that's cured. Okay, the next step is to glue the servo tray in with F4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait to glue the servo tray in, but I'm going to use this servo tray as a means of getting F4 perfectly perpendicular. And remember what I was saying to save your scraps. See what I'm using? I'm using my scraps to make that 1/8 of an inch. Then I'll put this up against here so I make sure that my F3 or F4 is completely or perfectly perpendicular. And once I get it perfectly perpendicular, I'll glue it in. I got F3 glued in right now. So I'm going to run a bead of 6CA where it needs to be. And before that dries, I'm gonna put the 6CA in there. Pardon my head. I can't see with my bifold. Okay, I'm going to set this up to dry. And when that's dry, I'll come back and lift up on this servo tray and glue this in. So that'll be what's going on next. So I'll see you in a little bit. Gotta take your time on this. You want it to be as perfect as possible. Okay. And remember to always make your numbers face forward. Be back in a little bit. Okay, while I'm waiting for F3 and F4 to glue so that I can glue in the servo tray, F2 has a subformer that glues to it, and this gets glued into the F2 slot perpendicular, so I can do that while I'm waiting on this to dry. It says to line up the hole for the wing dowel, so what better way to do that than to use the wing dowel itself. Being careful, of course, not to glue the wing dowel in while I'm gluing this. So I'm just going to test fit it. Give it a couple twists so that way you can get it in and out easy. All right. Now I'll apply medium CA. Get it lined up. Line up the dowel, or get the dowel in there, line it up, and then I'll put some weights on this while this dries. Okay, I got the glue or the dowel out and the weights set on this. I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm still waiting on that F4 and F3 to dry, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue in F2. I'm gonna use medium CA on this one. I'm not gonna glue the center where them weights are until this glue dries, and then I'll move the weights and put a bead in. I was test fitting the fuselage sides in. That's what I was doing while I was off camera. Because when I put the chin plate and F1B in place, everything was looking kind of wonky, but once I put the fuselage sides in, got everything together, everything was square the way it's supposed to be, so I don't know what the deal was there. let that set up. Alright, gonna let that dry. My goal for this episode is to get the crutch completed, basically the way you see it here, with this glued in place. And I'm gonna end it there. We'll do the next episode probably in a day or two. But I don't want to make them too long because I had a couple tips in there that took a while to show. But the next step after the crutch is done is to put the fuselage sides on. And that's going to be a long, drawn-out process. I have this feeling, so we'll put that in another episode. So I'm going to glue these in. Make sure they're lined up with the sides. Got to figure out how I'm going to hold this up. Maybe I can just I think I might just put glue on that tab. I'm going to put these pins back in. Slide that back under just so it keeps that flat. I figured out a way I can keep it flat. I can put tape back there, or try taping it. That'll hold that. That way I don't have to hold this thing all day. should be still straight. And I'll run a bead there too. I'll just run it right across. Probably a good time to fuel proof that tank area. Let's see. Can't put anything over there now, glue it on. Alright, so that's that. Now's the time to place the fuselage sides on. I'm not ready. These tabs are a little bit too long, maybe that's why I was holding it up. Let's try that. That's probably what it was. That's a better fit. Need some thicker CA right here. It's not filling that gap. One more bead of CA and I'm going to call this good. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry. Got it weighted down. This is F1B and the chin plate. Basically goes in like this. The chin plate has right thrust built into it, so it's got to be placed a certain way. And 1B goes like this. Yeah, that made a difference. Take those tabs down a little bit. Save that for another day. This should be good. Get some scrap. That's why I saved my scrap. So I can at least hold that perpendicular still. Couple more pieces. All right, I'm gonna let that dry overnight, and then we'll come back to the fuselage sides. I think that'll be what we'll do. So I'll clean up the bench and then close this episode out. This is episode 15. I gave you a roundabout of what we got here. This is the finished saddle once the glue is dried. Or not saddle, crutch. Wing dowel hole lined up perfectly. As you can see, what I was telling you, right here, there's the tab only goes in halfway, and there's like air right in here. I don't want to fill that with glue, so I just glued the tab part. So we'll let this dry overnight, and then next time you see this, the weights will be gone. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. We've completed the crutch assembly and made the fuselage sides, put the doublers on over a 2-day period, of course. Next step is to put the fuselage sides on, which is I'm looking forward to. So until next episode, if you enjoyed this content, like I said, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you can be notified of new episodes, and like and share my videos. So until next time, thanks for watching.